So Illinois, around 1818 in Kaskaskia, a bunch of people that called themselves Illinoisans got together and said, we're going to create a state of Illinoisans. And then they had rocks on the ground that created a boundary on North America. And those rocks marked the area over which Illinois fictitiously exists. It doesn't exist in reality.
Right.
It exists because these people decided upon these arbitrary boundaries, and they were able to map out those boundaries so it gave it the appearance of reality. But it's not real. Illinois doesn't exist at all except in the minds of men or on paper.
Yes.
It doesn't really, I mean, I'm pretty certain that squirrels cross those boundaries all day long up near Wisconsin, and they don't worry about crossing state lines. Again, there are no such boundaries. There are no such jurisdictions in nature. They're all man-made. They're all ideas or ideals. The Bible's a jurisdiction. It's a book.
Yes.
But it's a jurisdiction for those that believe. So in the minds of the believers, that Bible has boundaries, even though they're completely in the mind.
Yes.
And within the word on the written page, that's a jurisdiction over, and who has control of that jurisdiction? Whoever the author is of that tome, or whoever claims to own the copyrights or the property known as Bible. Well, whoever that is. I mean, if I claim a character in that tome, if I keep using the name of a character in that book, I am allowing that character to come into my world, or me go into that world, and I become subject to that book. I become subject to that world. And the one that rules over that world becomes the ruler of me. I've just changed governments by believing in that book.
In the jurisdiction.
In the jurisdiction of that book.
So
Stephen King, I'll say one last thing about this. Stephen King wrote a book called Under the Dome. Mm-hmm. I don't think a lot of his stuff translates very well to the big screen or, TV. It just doesn't. The way he writes is a little bit difficult to translate. But Under the Dome, it wasn't any better. I'm not trying to say that Under the Dome was good. But Under the Dome, people actually see it on TV when they watch that, and they see basically a giant dome, in essence, coming down over the top of the town. And so they believe that dome is something of substance, that things can't get through. And that's what it's supposed to look like. What people don't realize is the dome and all those that suffer the consequences of that dome, it's a belief system. It's a set of rules. That's all the dome is. It's a set of rules and consequences of those rules. So everybody that believed in a certain way to live, they brought that upon themselves. That dome came over those believers. And they became subject to that. They suffered the consequences of that belief system. The dome itself was nothing more than a belief system. And that's what became their limitation. They couldn't go beyond their own belief system. We do that now by joining communities or a community. Facebook is a community. It has its own jurisdiction. It can make its own rules over that community. If you choose to participate in Facebook, the rules of Facebook apply to you. You don't get to decide once you go into that realm, into that community, and say, "Hey, I want to change the rules of this place." Well, who the hell are you to change the rules? This isn't your place. You don't own this place. And that's what jurisdiction's all about. Who has the authority over a fictitious territory? A fictitious territory. And most of the time, it's just in your head.
It's so deep. Oh, my God.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so, all right. So wait. So Black Law, I've always had in my head is Law of the Dead. And I think you've said that as well. Is this a good way to look at that?
No, that's a good way to look at it. But Black's Law, the dictionary, the so-called dictionary, came out in 1891.
So late.
That was the first edition, but it's not a law dictionary as most people would not call it a law dictionary, even though that's what it says. It's a language. It's a specific language for a specific group of people. And so that book, Black's Law, it is a jurisdiction. It's a book that only applies to certain persons. It doesn't apply to me. I use it a lot, but I use it because it applies to what we would see now today as the birth certificated person, or a set of religious works or public works, or a public, let's call it a public, or a civil society, which is Roman. So it is designed specifically as a language to be used by those accustomed to those words. You may not know those words, but they apply to you if you take on the character of that territory. So Black's Law, 1891 first edition, was specific to decedent estates. Mm-hmm. You said it earlier. Mm-hmm. Dead persons.
Yes.
It's the world of the dead. That's what Black's Law is for. It's not for the living, by the way, and it's only used by attorneys.
Yes.
Lawyers would never use that book. So, lawyers use law books. Yes. Attorneys use Blacks.
Yes. This is a distinction a lot of people do not understand. Could you bring us into the knowing of that? I know I'm kind of jumping around, but we're going to get somewhere. The distinction between barrister, lawyer, and attorney.
I think barrister is just an English way of saying something, but I'm gonna explain how the difference between at law and in law.
Yes.
All right, so I'm looking down my driveway right now, and you're driving up. You're not really, but this is theater of the mind, right?
Yes.
I see you driving up my driveway in your brand new Jeep Grand Cherokee or whatever you're driving. I went out and I opened the gate. I give you a hug when you get out. You walk up my front step or my front sidewalk. I'm watching you walk up. I walk into my house. You're standing on the front steps at my front door. I'm inside my house. Inside my house, under my roof, I'm the king. Mm. Inside here, in law, under this roof, I'm the law. I am in law right here. I am the law.
So you hold jurisdiction.
You're standing outside of my front porch.
I'm the outlaw.
You're at my front door. You're at law. You have yet to come into my house. You're not in my house. You're at my house. Lawyers go all the way up to law, but they never go into law. They're always at the law. They don't deal directly in law. They are working around the law. So think about that. You're standing on my front porch looking at me. I'm on this side of the threshold. You're on that side of the threshold. Look at that. Think about the threshold. Mm-hmm. I'm opening my door. You're still on the other side of the threshold. You're not in law yet. As soon as you step over the threshold into my house, under my roof, now you are dealing with law. Attorneys never deal with law. Never. And if you think about the crossing over from the world of the unborn to the born, that threshold, that vagina is a threshold.
Yes.
So the attorneys are dealing with the not living. You can call them dead if you want, or yet to be born. They are dealing at the threshold of life. They do not deal with living entities or beings. So if there's an attorney involved, they're not talking about living entities or beings. They're talking about property, estates, decedent estates, everything but life. So again, the difference between under the roof of God or life itself, that's law, L-A-W. That's in the law. That's the law of nature, nature's God and all that stuff. The other stuff are pure fictions. They're fictions of law, and they're at law.